These different websites, and just really quickly, this is some of the stuff we do in North Carolina. So I'll try to be really fast since I know you're all going to get this. The buildings program does all that. It really doesn't show up that well down there, but starting at specific tech assistance and design reviews, we do all that stuff down below that. This is a database that we run at the Solar Center. It's actually a national database, the database of state incentives for renewables and efficiency. And you go there and you can click on any state in the union, as I like to say, and you can actually find out what are the federal and your state incentives for doing renewable energy, energy efficiency, so on and so on and so forth. And there's actually a new section called Green Building Initiatives. They just relaunched this website recently. And make sure you don't put in that first E in desire. You know, tell them what you'll get. I know what you get. I don't want to get it. These are all the websites that we have through the Billings program. The last one is actually, the last two are actually Solar Center websites, but the Green and Sea Trade Show and above are all projects that my team works on. And we maintain all those. We have a Green Professionals directory, which you can actually look up people. We have over 500 people, almost 600 at this point actually, who are doing green building construction or renewable energy or whatever, manufacturing products around the state. And they're just focused on North Carolina. In fact, we reject people regularly from other states, unless of course they live in a county bordering North Carolina where they are likely to work in North Carolina. And then we have a database of green building stuff. There are over 80 buildings in there with lots of data. And the data I usually find the most useful are the ones where people say what went wrong. They say, well, this just didn't work really well. That gives you, and they usually are very verbose when that happens. And so I find those the most interesting personally, but they also sort of catalog what people are doing for buildings. We hope we can, there are really a lot of buildings that need to be added to this at this point. It's really focused on technologies and not green buildings. And then this is our trade show. We're actually moving this. This was at McKinnon last year, but this year we're actually moving it to the Raleigh Convention Center. So we're very excited about that. And we're hoping to have an actual commercial and residential section. We had like this tiny little residential section last year, but we had a lot of desire for it. But this is mostly focused on commercial for the most part. We actually run a green building diploma series. And most of the people, and a renewable energy technology series as well, most of the people who take this are people who are career changers. You'd actually be surprised how many IT people show up in our green building classes thinking that I've done computers for a long time and I understand a lot of science, and I think I might like to do this for a living as a change of taste. And so we actually have training equipment in our little yard, our little work yard out behind the solar house, if any of you've ever been out to the solar house. These are our two programs. I already sort of talked about them. And you'll get all this information too, these email addresses of different people and sort of categorized under, you know, what we tend to take care of in our office. Not that we can't all talk about most of these topics, but you'll get the people who spend the most time answering these questions if you go to the different ones. That is it, and I think I have like 4 or 5 minutes for more questions if you want them. Okay.
I was curious as to what the involvement of the state has been in supporting the program.
The state has supported us through the state energy office and some through a small state appropriation. We've gone after grant funding. It's actually, to me, it's amazing what we have done with as little money as we have. We probably have, this past year, had $120,000 dedicated to the Healthy Built Homes program, and we certified over 150 houses. And if you think about that, that's like a house every other day, not to mention all the technical assistance questions and the design reviews and maintaining the website, doing the workshops, and all that stuff has to go into all that. So it's a really tiny little bit of it.
It's kind of towards that same.
I'm sorry, what now?
Kind of towards that same question. On your first slide, said these are all wrong.
Yes.
Is there a possible shift of party to departments going to building code?
Yeah, but that's a really interesting question. She's asking, I don't know if you can all hear her, but she's asking about, is there a chance for these programs to potentially become part of the building code? And I think to some extent they do tend to shift the building code toward a more green. We've already seen it. We've seen a better uptake in our state of a more stringent residential building code with our involvement, and a more stringent commercial building code with the lead commercial buildings that have been in place. And some of the really good legislation that's come out of our legislature about state buildings has also helped push to that. I will note that in some other states, I can't remember the name of the city right now, but there are a couple of cities, I think they're out in Arizona, I have the right state, that actually have required in their building code that you have to do a green building. And the building inspector is actually the one who goes out and checks your checklist to see if you did all the things on your checklist, if they were green that you said you were going to do. That's highly unusual, because the idea of a green building program is that by the time it becomes code, then you move on, you move your checklist forward. And so you're trying to constantly push things to a higher and higher level. So personally, I'm of the mind, just like the National Association of Home Builders, that I'd like to see, well, I don't know if they'd like to see the building code move forward, but I'd like to see the programs tend to remain voluntary to kind of push the market further and further toward a more sustainable building set. So that's just my personal opinion. The state is not necessarily endorsing that.
Do you have a cost per square foot or some other measure that defines how much more houses the association costs for those strictly built code?
We have done that for healthy built homes, what you're requesting, cost per square foot. But there's like all these qualifiers on it. Like it's got to be, we've come up with a cost estimate. It's got to be this size. Start out with a decent quality, and all those sorts of things. And then the number that we've come up with is somewhere around $5,000, which is pretty small for a 2,000 square foot house. That's the number we used on. About $2.50 per square foot.
Let's take one more question.
Okay, I'm not sure. I think you had your hand up. Yes.
When do you think that it'll reach where it doesn't cost extra to do? I mean, the technology coming into place to help bring down the cost of energy efficient, or getting the energy efficiency rating or LEED, where it'll be.
Do you mean in residential or commercial?
Residential.
Okay. In residential, I think, and I actually think this sort of for commercial as well. Personally, I think it already. I say that it costs $5,000 extra. That's up front.
Right.
Personally, I think today it costs less from a life cycle viewpoint, because the minute you start paying your mortgage, even though you might be paying $10 or $15 more on your mortgage for that extra $5,000, I can't remember how much more that is per. Somebody here probably knows. Your utility bills are a lot less than the extra you're paying on your mortgage. So you're actually out of pocket the first month that you bought that house paying less than you would have. So on a day-to-day basis, it's already cheaper. That's my personal opinion. Now, that depends on how green you get too. Yes.
If you're interested in building a green home, what's the process? Is there a resource available that says this is the process you start to go through?
Sure. I mean, you contact someone like myself, or you contact Lee at the Home Builders Association, Durham, Orange, Chatham, Wake County. She runs the Green Home Builders of the Triangle program, and we work great together. So I'll even give her a plug. We actually do their training for their independent inspectors. So